have always never ceased to learn from them and from you, from your questions and comments. It's been a real honor. I think that just in closing, I think that I want to emphasize a couple of things. One is that I think that one of the areas that we need to improve in our work in Vancouver is in the area of anti-racism work. And that gets to the question that Ambrose brought up around, isn't there more we could do to educate students in general in our schools? And I think we could, and I think it also, there's that level, but there's also the institutional racism whereby Aboriginal students are streamed into things like alternate programs, an assumption that they can't succeed. And that is something we have to reverse, we have to overcome and acknowledge as a board that that's something we have to work to overcome. The question around what a parent can do, that's probably, I know I can talk for my fellow trustees, we probably get more calls from parents who have kids with special needs, and those students' needs aren't being met, and the incredible frustration. We hear that over and over again. We hear it from teachers who are frustrated that they can't provide the kind of support for those students in their classrooms that they know they need to provide. So but I guess my advice to you is that it's almost impossible to do anything by yourself. That way lies madness. And that what you got to do is work together with the community, find allies, and work together.
Hear us to get things done is what I mean. Who's the person that I need to hear my voice to get?
Yeah, you can talk to each school in Vancouver has a liaison trustee attached. Talk to them. Send a letter to all trustees. Send a letter to the principal. Send letters to the associate superintendents that are responsible for those schools. Just keep the pressure on and tell us your story. As Chris said, it's the narrative of what you're living that has the biggest impact on us.
Great.
The superintendent.
Yeah. And I'm sure our panelists will be around to ask questions of separately, as well as the school board trustees who are here. And so I'm going to ask Noel if you can close the panel. Thank you.
Missing in our public school system is the cultural component. There's no question about that. I think that what I know of the Ontario system, they definitely do a much better job. Secondly, the cutbacks have impacted on all our kids. At the elementary level, learning assistance for all kids, including First Nations, get cut. Skill development at the secondary level, cut as well. Area counsellors at the elementary level, cut. Secondary school counsellors, cut. You go right down. What we need in the system is a greater flexibility and a greater more inclusive system. And lastly, professional development. The living daylights cut out of it. Anti-racism programs and all professional developments simply have taken a nosedive. And to combat the blowback that I spoke about earlier, we need that built into the system. We do not do a good job. We have to do much better. And thank you for coming this morning and listening to all of us. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much to Chris, Jane, and Noel for the
income levels. So to help us walk through some of the issues here, we have our three panelists. So first of all, I'm going to move to Ryder Cooey. Thank you, Ryder.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Anne. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to acknowledge, probably on behalf of everyone else on the panel, that we are on unceded Coast Salish territory here today. The Citywide Housing Coalition started five or 6 years ago, I think, in response to the need for a broadening of representation among activists, people concerned about and active in relation to affordable housing and homelessness. The history of homelessness is charted graphically on this awkward banner that we've made up it's a year old now. So, yeah. Do you need this microphone? The green part of this chart describes the self-contained social housing units under construction. And since the banner was made really more than a year ago, the green portion is somewhat larger now, but not significantly so. And otherwise, the graph charts the progress or lack of progress from in the creation of social housing, from highs all through the decades of the 80s and 90s, and really before the 80s, down to the election of the provincial government and their cessation, and also the federal government's cessation of funding for social housing. Social housing in this case being non-profit and co-op and municipally sponsored housing. Corresponding to the decline of that kind of housing as measured by the three periods of homeless counts, the homelessness in Vancouver increased substantially, and that's the Citywide Housing Coalition is currently trying to get an adequate response from the BC Coroner's Office to the death of 3 men in the house fire, the porch fire on Pandora Street, 3 days before Christmas. And that's the primary activity that we're engaged in now. And before I forget, I'd just like to urge all of you to write to the BC Coroner's Office, or telephone is fine as well. The contact information is on his website, and ask for a public inquiry, because we believe that those 3 men died not simply as a result of poor wiring, but as a result of the poverty in which they lived and the circumstances of the housing in which they lived. 2 of them died because they were sleeping on the back porch. The other activity of Citywide is a great concern about the need for a local area plan for the downtown east side and the recent exclusion of Chinatown from that process. And perhaps I'll let it go at that, and Dean can talk about the activities of CAP and ELP and Raise the Rate. Thank you.
Righty, you're supposed to let me finish my row. Okay, so yeah, I'm Jean, and I'm from the Carnegie Community Action Project, and the goal of, we call it CAP, and the goal of CAP is to get more and better housing for low-income people in the downtown east side, to get welfare and minimum wage raised, and to stop gentrification, at least until we get the housing and the assets of the low-income community secured. I can't, am I doing this? You're on. I can't even, you can't even start thinking about how to solve housing and homelessness problems in Vancouver without understanding a few points. And I just wanted, I think there's about 8 of them, I just wanted to go through them. One is that we had virtually no homelessness before 1990. I remember I used to work at the Downtown East Side Residents Association in the 70s, and we didn't fight to get housing for the homeless because there hardly were any homeless. 2, and Ryder alluded to this, the feds virtually stopped funding new housing in 1993. There's been a few drips and drabs, but nothing much more than that. Before that, they funded about 600 units a year in Vancouver. That was in the 70s and the 80s and some in the 90s. Then in 2001, which Ryder mentioned too, the province cancelled hundreds of units of new housing that were planned when the Liberals took office in 2001. The City of Vancouver says that it needs 800 units of social housing a year. Folks, that's 800 units. That's how much we need in the city.
Excuse me one moment. We have a wonderful speaker, Jean Swanson, speaking. If we could just lower the background noise, we'd greatly appreciate it. Please go ahead, Jean.
And then between 2005 and 2010, there were only 280 new units of housing built in the whole province. Between 2005 and 2010, 280 new units. I mean, that is unbelievable, considering that the city itself needs 800 units a year. And the 1,400 units of supportive housing that are now being built have been spread over the 2007 to 2013 period. So that's 6 years, it's just over 200 units a year, keeping in mind that we need 800 in the city. So another fact, no new social housing is planned for after 2013, even though it takes about 6 years from announcement to moving in day. So this is 2011. We have nothing in the pipe for 2013. And then the last thing is when welfare rules changed in 2002, you can see right there in the graph, homelessness made it, the welfare rules changed. They made welfare a lot harder to get, and you can see that homelessness doubled. So what is CAP doing about housing? We did a 2-year consultation with about 1,200 residents of the downtown east side, and we came up with we did visioning, we did a questionnaire, we did community mapping, and we did 3 days of planning with 44 community leaders, and we came up with this community vision for change, which is on our website if you want to check it out. And on page 8 and 9 of our community vision for change are our marching orders for the next 3 years, the action plan. And of course, one of those actions is, the very first one, is build social housing. And what it says is that build high-quality, self-contained, affordable, and appropriate homes for Aboriginal and low-income downtown east side residents, people who are homeless, people who have low incomes. The SROs, the hotel rooms, should be replaced in 5 years, not 53 years, which was how long it'll take at the rate the city was building them when this was written. And that we need a variety of housing types for low-income people. Housing for the Aboriginal and Chinese and working class people, housing, supportive housing, independent living housing, housing for families and children, people with disabilities, communal housing, co-op housing, intergenerational housing, housing for couples, and housing, supportive housing should be covered by the Residential Tenancy Act. So we need all kinds of housing in the downtown east side. The key ingredient, however, is housing for low-income people. Not one of the 1,200 people that we talked to said that they wanted the government to work on getting more condos in the neighborhood or more housing for richer people. Last year, CAP, with a couple of other groups in the downtown east side, helped form the Downtown East Side Neighborhood Council. And the Neighborhood Council now has about 700 members and an elected board that's elected by a unique method that they invented by housing type, with so many more board members being members or residents of SROs. 5, I think, are members of social housing. 3 are from market housing. Anyway, the DNC is now, and CAP and other groups in the downtown east side are now working on a campaign to get the city to buy 5 lots a year for housing for low-income people. And we've come, 10 lots. And we've come up with a list of sites one of which is the library down the street.